Okay, Peter, thank you very much. There are actually just 4 words at the bottom of Lamed Daled Amud Aleph before we turn the page. Rabbi Yochanan Shoma, the person hears, and as we turn the page, and I think we started maybe last time, we can see the end of the Masechta in sight as we turn the page. Oh, Leo, you probably just got that one Amud, have you? Lamed Daled Amud Beis. Those people who've got a Gemara, a actual full Gemara, can see that Lamed Hay actually is the last. Lamed Hay Amud Aleph is the last Amud of the Masechta. So yeah, so this Shoma, Rabbi Yochanan said, if someone hears Tesha Tekiyos, B'Tesha Sho'os, 9 Tekiyos over 9 hours. Now, why 9 Tekiyos? Now, let's just remind ourselves, Minat Torah, and the halacha, the way we paskin is, there's meant to be a Tekiyah, a trua, a Tekiyah, however you define that middle part of the sandwich. And 3 sets of those min haTorah, where we do the 3 different types of middle of the sandwich, either the trua, the shvarim, or the shvarim trua. So why someone who hears 9 tekiyos? So look at the top Rashi, please. Tesha tekiyos, it actually means truas nami ka'oma. So all it means here, sounds. It's sounds of the shofar. Someone who hears 9 sounds, and the sounds, of course, would be min haTorah, tekiah, trua, tekiah, times 3. So this is what this person hears. Yotza, even though it's spread over 9 hours of the day, a person is yotza. Interesting. Says the Gemara, Tanya Nami Hochi. In fact, we got a brisa like this, supporting this view of Rabbi Yochanan, that you can have massive gaps in between, and we'll see about the halacha in a moment. The gaps in between are fine, as long as it's not the wrong note, if you see what I mean. It's got to be, the sequence is crucial. Tekiah, let's say we're talking about trua, tekiah, trua, tekiah. You've got to hear that sequence. As long as you hear that sequence, and as I say, don't say mess it up by blowing a shvarim in the middle of that, if you're in the tekiah, trua, tekiah group. So blow with gaps in between, and Rabbi Yochanan says it's okay. And in fact, the Brisa says the same. Tanya Nami Hochi, second line down. Shoma Tesha Tekiyos B'Tesha Shos B'Yom Yotza. So as we know before, we've seen so many times, the Brisas, people weren't familiar with all the Brisas. The Brisas are written by Tanoim. So there's a statement of Rabbi Yochanan, in fact, backed up by this Brisa. And that, if you can see the little aleph on top, that takes me to the Shulchan Aruch. And I won't bother you at this point, Peter. But in fact, that's exactly what comes up in the Shulchan Aruch. If you do hear Tesha Tekiyos, can you see the little aleph? If you follow it to the side, in mine it's the top corner. I've got a little aleph. Actually, the aleph and basin tells me to look in the Maimonides. Can you see that? That superscript. Perek Gimel of Hilchos Shofar Lachavov. Samag, which stands for the Sefer Mitzvahs Godel. It's there as well in Mitzvah Asay number 42. And it's also in the Tur Shulchan Aruch of Orach Chaim, Siman Tov Kuf Pei Ches, which is 588, paragraph number 2. And that's where I'm looking here. And if I look there, I can see, in fact, this halacha comes through. Shoma Tesha Tekiyos B'Tesha Shos B'Yom Yotza. What's important, though, as I said before, is you're not going to hear the wrong sound in between. You can talk even, as it mentions here. The hifsik b'dibur benta, even speech in between, as long as you do hear all the notes, that would be fine. One shouldn't be talking in shul while they're blowing, because then you'll miss, obviously, the blowing. But if there's a gap in between, and as long as you do hear that sequence, you are yotze, and I say that comes through in the Shulchan Aruch. So, continue the Gemara. Third line down. Mitesha b'nei Odom. What about 9 people? So the first important halacha, I'll just actually tell you a little bit more at the Shulchan Aruch here. On that first halacha of having the 9 spread across the day, in fact, it can be by 9 different people. So we have somebody blowing the tekiah, somebody blowing the teruah, somebody else blowing the tekiah, and that's fine. You could do that. You don't need, and that may happen, hopefully not, but sometimes if the Baal Tekiah is having trouble, you may call on someone else, I wouldn't say a sub, but something like that. Bring on someone else to take his space. You can have different people blowing, that's fine, and as we've seen here right across the day. Now here we've got a new halacha, line number 3. Tesha b'nei Odom ke'echod lo yotzo. 9 people blowing at once, lo yotzo. And that's very interesting. We'll see this Rashi now. Tekio mizer, I'm doing the Gemara first actually. Tekio mizer, trua mizer, yotzo. But if you hear tekio from one and a trua from someone else, then you are yotze. Va'afilu, this is all part of this long brisa, b'si rugin, even with massive gaps in between. Va'afilu kol hayom kuloi, even throughout the whole day, that would be fine. So clearly, this brisa supports the view of Rabbi Yochanan. Sounds like he didn't know of this brisa, so there's great support for him, and that will be the halacha. But let's go back to the first part of that. 9 people at once. So you've got a tekiah, let's say teruah tekiah, and there are 9 people lined up. One's doing the tekiah, the teruah, the tekiah. It says here lo yotza. Now let's have a look at Rashi. Top line. Mitesha b'nei Odom ke'echad lo yotza. Why not? Because trei koli lo mishtame, 2 sounds can't be heard at once. Kach pirusha, that is the explanation of this statement. Have you got a second line of Rashi? Lefi mashe kosu b'sforim. According to the way many of the texts have this wording, says Rashi, v'lav milsahi. This is incorrect. Why? People may remember, we learned some while back, Daf Chov Zayin, to trei koli mitrei gavri mishtame, 2 sounds. If you're very keen on those sounds, and we haven't heard the shofar from one Rosh Hashanah to the next, you can focus on both sounds. If it's something what's called choviv, if it's something delightful, you're very keen to hear the shofar, Gemara learned in Daf Chov Zayin that you can. So, therefore, says Rashi, this text is wrong. When it says from 9 people at once, lo yotza, Rashi is of the opinion that you would be yotza. Now look at the next line of Rashi. V'hochi gasina lo b'tosefta. If you look in the Tosefta, says Rashi, the correct text is the following. Have you got it? 4th line of Rashi. Mitesha b'nei Odom ke'echod yotzo. 9 people at once, in other words, lined up, a real trumpet voluntary or a shofar voluntary, if you like, when you've got 9 people at a tekiah from him, a teruah tekiah. The Tosefta says you are yotze afilu b'sirugin, and also that is very clear. If it's spread throughout the day, that's fine. So he's telling me the correct text of this brisa, or in fact Tosefta. We do not have the words tkir from this one and truas from this one. That would be a repetition. It should be from 9 people at once. Tekio mizeh, if you want to put that wording in, so you're hearing from 9 people at the same time. Tekio mizeh, trua mizeh, yotza afilu surugin. So all Rashi's point is this, that Rashi says you can hear from 9 people, as we've said before, something which is choviv. You're very keen to hear the shofar sound, and therefore you can focus your mind on hearing, or in fact, focus your ears on hearing all the sounds. You may have to come close up to the Baalei Tkir, but you could do that. That is the view of Rashi. So Rashi is saying the text we've got, this lo yotz, is wrong, because 2 sounds or more even than 2 sounds can be heard if they're choviv. That is a view of Rashi. Please look at Tosfos. Mitesha b'nei odom ke'echa lo yotza. 9 people at once, lo yotza. Remember, that was the original text we had. Please look at Tosfos. Kach kosud b'sforim. So is written in the old books, the old manuscripts. Vehiksha b'kuntras. And Rashi asks, Amai lo yotza. Why should you not be yotzer or asikna? We come to the conclusion earlier on in Daf Chof Zayin. Detrei koli mitrei gabri mishtame. 2 sounds can be heard when it's talking about the shofar, something which you're very keen to hear. Upirish, he explains, de Garsinan b'Tosefta, according to the text that we've got in the Tosefta. Also some extra from the word Tosfos, extra brises. Mitisha b'nei odom ke'echad yotzo. Va'afilu b'sirugin. He says, yes, you will be yotzer, and not only if you hear them all at the same time, it can be spread throughout the day. So Rashi's view, as we saw in Rashi, is that yes, you can hear from 9 people at once. Says Tosfos, I disagree with Rashi. Venira lekayim girsas hasforim. I'm saying, says Tosfos, not like Rashi, that you cannot be yotzer from 9 people all at the same time. Why not? Keep going. Mitesha b'nei odom ke'echad. Next line. Lo yotza. It's true. You can hear 2 sounds at once. And what that means, and there will be more of this in a minute, is if you had lined up in front of you 2 people, one was blowing tekiah, then a shvarim, and then a tekiah, and the other person was blowing tekiah, shvarim, tekiah. You could focus on both of those and you would have 2 sets. Continue Tosfos. But in this case, you won't be able to. Why not? The ein kam bitrua pshuta lefonea or pshuta lachreha. If you've lined up 9 people and you're hearing a tekiah and a trua and a tekiah at the same time, and so you go on for 9, when you hear the trua, you haven't heard the tekiah before it. Kivan shahakol biyachad. Whereas the example that Rashi was pointing to, as I said, when you have 2 people, you can even have 3 people lined up, they're doing tekiah at the same time, you could focus on each of them, then they're all doing a teruah, focus on all of that, and then a tekiah, that you can do. Do you understand the difference? Whereas if you've got 9 people lined up, when you hear that teruah, you haven't heard a tekiah prior to the tekiah, teruah. And remember, it's a sandwich. You must hear it in that right order. Order. You've got to hear that order. And therefore, Tosfos disagrees. You could have a tekiah from one and a trua from another, Yotza, if they are one after the other, that's fine. And you can have it with big gaps, sirugin. And he explains, sirugin hafsoches, harbe, large gaps, shetokea umafsik. If a person blows a tekiah, then there's a big gap. In fact, even if a person speaks, that will be fine because you've heard the tekiah, it's one long mitzvah. You've heard the tekiah, 10 o'clock, a trua, 11 o'clock. The shua lasts as a trua ad la'achashor, even an hour later, that would be fine. So a very interesting machlokas here between Rashi and Tosfos. And what we're saying, therefore, is Rashi is learning you can, it doesn't matter, as long as you are hearing all the notes, that's fine, and you will hit all the notes. Tosfos says, no, it's not good enough just to hear all the notes. They've got to be in the right sequence, and you've got to have a tekiah, then a trua, and then a tekiah. But if you hear 9 at once, you will not be yotzeh. We've got a hand up from Mervyn. Please come in, Mervyn.
Two things. One serious. This idea of two sounds at one time. That's we learned this from the Asos Hadibra, Shema B'Sof Hadibra Echad. So it's not a human capability to be able to say two, although it may possibly is a capability to hear.
Oh, yeah, but you can hear. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So I'm saying it's a proof from that. It's a.
I see what you mean. Yeah, very good. You could hear it, not say it. Yes.
The other thing is when you're saying about the notes, but not in the right order. So it's like the to the Morecambe and Wise sketch. You said you have.
Sorry, the notes where?
You said the notes in the right notes, but not in the right order. That was a famous Morecambe and Wise sketch. When he's tried to play the piano, he says, "Well, I've got them right." With Andrew Previn, he says, "I've got them right. I'm just not playing in the right order."
Oh right, oh, very good. Yes.
Anyway,
thank you.
But the serious point was the.
Oh, I thought the second one was a serious. No, okay.
Yeah, okay, fine. But both are. But I mean, the idea, the concept. So they could
hear.
Yeah,
no, very good.
They could hear.
Yeah, and people. I mean, particularly if you're musical. And you can go to a concert, of course. Anybody can enjoy music at a concert, but particularly you can focus in on the notes. If you want to be able to do them rather than just hear the whole piece, you can actually focus in on all of them.
Whether you hear them as an amalgam or not is unclear because the human mind can't do two things at once.
No,
it can't have two thoughts at once. So it's hearing them as an amalgam. It's a synthesis of the. Shivarium and the true.
All of that together. But I mean, what we're saying here is Rashi and Tosfos are not disagreeing that you can't actually hear both sounds. According to Rashi, the sequence, as long as you hear them all, that's fine.
I understand that's the separation.
Whereas Tosfos would say, no, the sequence is crucial and you have to hear them in the right order. Now, again, back to the Shulchan Aruch on this. Shoma Tesha Tchias, I'll tell you what it says. Shetoku kulom ke'echod. What will the Shulchan Aruch say? Like Rashi or like Tosfos? Well, I will call on Peter here, if you don't mind. Peter, sorry, it's an unprepared one. So we'll just to make sure you haven't lost the knack of. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Let's go to Halacha in Sefaria. Thank you very much. Yeah, good. Go. We'll sure. No, you've gone. Go back. Orach Chaim, please. Chapter 588. Very good indeed. Yes. So man, go to paragraph 2. That's what we want. Here we are. Now that's what we had already. Remember the 10 hours, 9 hours across the day. Now go to 3. Shoma tesha tkios mitesh tisha b'nei odom shetuku kulom ke'echod lo yotzo she'ein kam pshuta lefoneo u'pshuta lachareho. You have not got the tekiah prior to the trua, or after it, you're not yotzing. You can see the English here. Even here's 9 tekiot from 9 different people. And here the word tekiot just means sound. So you got the tekiot, true tekiot, which was sound in the shofar at the same time. Not for the invocation. There's no simple sound before it and after it, meaning there's no tekiot before that. But look at the Ramah. Hagor, this is the Ramah, Ramosha Isserlis. You can look in the Hebrew first if you like. Vim shnayim toku ke'echad, 2 people blowing together. Kol haseda. In other words, they're blowing tekiah, a trua, the tekiah. Afilu echad toka b'chatzotzros. Wow, even if someone's blowing a different an instrument, there you are. But you got the trumpet coming in. Do yohiv dati ala shofar? You can actually focus the mind or focus your ear on the sound, and you will be yotzer. So that the way Tosfos is learning. So the halacha therefore does follow the view of Tosfos. Okay, thank you very much, Peter. So back to our Gemara. So we've had the statement of Rabbi Yochanan, which was it can be spread throughout the day. We had the Brisa, which supported that. There's no question about that. Then the Gemara asks, 5 lines down, Umi Omar Rabbi Yochanan Hochi? Did Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? We've got a contradiction in the statements of Rabbi Yochanan. V'Omar Rabbi Yochanan, didn't Rabbi Yochanan say Mishum in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yehud Tzadok? Now that word Mishum is going to be crucial, as we'll see. So he's saying this in the name of. He doesn't say Omar Rabbi Yochanan Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Yehud Tzadok. It's Omar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum. It's like in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yehud Tzadok. Bear that in mind, please, as we follow this through. In Hallel and Megillah, Im Shoho Kedei Ligma Es Kula, if there's a gap, a space in between, a Hallel in the middle of Hallel or in the middle of the Megillah, a person goes out and misses and then catches up later. Im Shoha, if there was a gap, Kedei Ligma Es Kula, the time it takes to complete the whole thing from beginning to end, Choyzel Arosh, he goes back to the beginning. Have a look at the Rashi. Im Shoha, if he waited, tarried, B'siruga, there's that word sirugin again, which means, as we saw in Tosfos, it means a gap, a hafsaka. Kedei ligma es kuloi, then choyze, he goes back to the beginning. So, what do we see here? We see here that in mitzvahs, you cannot have a gap which is that long. Yeah, it can have a small gap, but not a gap which is enough to have done the whole mitzvah. That's what he says with Hallel and Megillah, and there's no reason to think it should be any different in the case of the shofar, in which case, how can he say over 9 hours of the day, that 9 notes, 9 hours, an hour's gap, even the, whoever the Baal Tokeh is going to be able to complete all the blowing in a couple of minutes, less. So this seems to be a contradiction, Rabbi Yochanan, with the statement we said before about the shofar. Is there a difference between Hallel, Megillah, and shofar? We don't think there is. Says the Gemara, and this is the crucial piece here, Lo kasher. Hodidei, Hodurabe. When he said it was, remember we said the word Mishum, in the name of, he was quoting Rabbi Shimon ben Yehud Tzadok, not that he supported that view, because he is of the view, it's fine. Yeah? So that's the difference in himself, and that's, I think, very important that we, as we saw before, this Mishum in the name of, doesn't say he said this Omar, as you'd often find, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Yehud Tzadok, which sounds like he would support and agree with that, because it said Mishum, it's in the name of that individual. So Hod Didei, Hod Rabbe, but we haven't quite finished yet. Vididei loy. Are you telling me, lididei for himself, loy, it means it's not considered a crucial gap, having a gap, an hour's gap between two tekiyos, that's not considered a full gap and will break up that mitzvah? So let's just remind us of what's going on here. Rabbi Yochanan originally said gaps are fine. Don't mind the gap, it's all fine. Then we brought this statement, Rabbi Shimon ben Tzadok, gaps are bad news if it's a very long gap. Then we said, no, that's not the Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're going to have another question, a contradiction against Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara is now asked, you just said before that was a view of his teacher. It looks like he actually supports that view. Udidelo, are you telling me he himself, no, would say that it's okay to have a very large gap? It's not true. Why? Now, this time again, we've got Rabbi Yochanan in an interesting case that happened. Rabbi Avohu. Have you got it? Rabbi Avohu. Have a shokil v'ozil basrei Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Avohu is one of the Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan had a huge number of Talmidim. He was actually a Rosh Yeshiva for 60 years up in Tiberia. And one of his great Talmidim was Rabbi Avohu. And he was actually walking with him, Shokil Ozim Basrei, behind him, with him, of Rabbi Yochanan. So he is going from A to B. Vahavi Kori Kriyas Shema. He was saying Kriyas Shema. Maybe it was getting very late in the day. Can't tell you. But he was saying Kriyas Shema. Sound like Kriyas Shema in the morning, maybe. Could have been in the evening. I don't know. Ki mota lumuvois metunofais. When he got to places which is, it sounds like, streets which are full of dirt, excrement, muvois metunofais, ishtik. He stopped, didn't want to continue saying Kriyas Shema. Bossa de Cholif, after he was gone beyond that area, I swapped over his chalipin. Omalei, when he's finished and gone through that area, and some of these back alleys, which were really filthy, he says the following question to his teacher, Rabbi Yochanan. Mahu ligma. Can I continue now, finishing off my Kriyas Shema? That was his question. So maybe he got to the first paragraph and he wants to know whether he continue. Or maybe he was in the middle of the paragraph. Can he continue where he left off? He stopped in the middle when he was going through this very dirty alley. Can he now go back? Or has he lost it and has got to start again? And he answered him, Omale, he answered, Im shohisa, if you waited, if there was a gap, kedei ligma eskula, the time it takes to complete the whole of Kriyas Shema. Sounds like very interesting now. It's more of a subjective. So he was saying to him, how long does it take you normally to say the whole of Kriyas Shema? If it took all that time and you'd stopped saying your Kriyas Shema because going through the alleyway, the dark alleyway, then go back to the beginning. Woo. So there we do find, we said before, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that gaps in mitzvahs are fine. We did say Rabbi Shimon ben Tzadok says no. If the gap's very long enough to have completed the whole mitzvah, you have to go back again. Now we've got a question Rabbi Avoh is raising about Kriyas Shema. And the answer Rabbi Yochanan is giving is, if the gap is longer than, greater or equal to the time it takes to say the whole of Kriya Shema, you've lost it. Well, that's not the view he said at the beginning. So now we do have, you could answer before and say he was saying in the name of Reb Shimon ben Yotzadok, but what you're going to do this? Rabbi Avo actually quizzed him on this, and that was his reply. Tricky, contradiction. Says the Gemara, no. Nice answer. You're like this. Hochi ka'omale. This is what he was saying to him. Lididi lo sphira li. I am of the opinion that it's not a problem at all. We'll see Rashi in a moment. Lididcha, but according to you, you're worrying about gaps. The sphira lacha. This wouldn't be a bother to me, but I can see it's bothering you. You therefore are of the opinion, not like my view about gaps irrelevant. Then I'm telling you, if you support the view that gaps are important or not important, that can actually ruin the mitzvah, then I'm telling you the rule is as long as it would be enough to have completed the whole mitzvah. Have a look at Rashi, please. Lididi, according to me, lo severely, I don't hold of all of this. Now, there's a little bit more going on here, as we'll see. Ma shehifsakta, the fact that you've stopped. Notice he'd stopped as he's going through this alleyway. He says, I think you didn't even need to stop. De Isleil Rabbi Yochanan in Brochus, not necessarily Pascal like that, but Rabbi Yochanan's view is, these very dirty alleyways. As long as you place your hand over your mouth, you can continue to say Kriyat Shema. That's my view. So there are two, you see, there are 2 points coming through here. The first point is whether you needed to stop at all. I would have said keep saying your Kriyat Shema. That's number one. And then there's a second point. I'm also of the opinion that if you would actually do stop, whenever you stop in the middle of the mitzvah, the time that you've stopped is irrelevant. So do you understand there are 2 points going on here? I'm of the opinion you don't need to stop at all, because cover your mouth and then you can continue saying Kriya Shema. You disagree with me about that because you stopped. I've got another view. My second view is that even in places where you do stop, it doesn't matter how long the gap is. So have a look at the next Rashi. Lididcha, according to you. Despira lacha, you are of the opinion. Va'ata cholek kolai b'shleim. You disagree with me on principle on both. What does that mean? Seeing as you're asking the question,
That's okay,
I think you may go, Peter.
Oh,
okay. Very good. Thank you. The fact that you're asking me, am I allowed to finish off and complete the Kriya Shema? You are obviously of the opinion that sirugin ma'akve, if the gap, it could actually prevent the mitzvah from being performed. You're only asking me how long does the gap have to be? So I can see you disagree with me on 2 fronts. Number one, you say you stopped saying Kriya Shema. I would have said you could have continued. Number 2, you're asking me how long is the gap allowed to be before I've lost the mitzvah. I disagree with that. I say there's no time, There's no time limit. As we said, an hour, you can have a tekiah over nine hours, tekiahs. That's not a bother. So you disagree with me on both fronts. That's good. Now there's no contradiction to what he said at the very beginning of today, because Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that gaps don't matter, right? He's saying you're obviously concerned about gaps. Your only question was, how long can the gap be? I'm telling you, if you are of that opinion that gaps can actually ruin the mitzvah, the halacha on that front is that it's as long as it takes to complete the whole mitzvah. But I don't hold of that. I hold you can have a gap as long as you like, and therefore no contradiction. Again, let's read the Gemara again. Lididi, beginning of the line, lo severely. I don't hold of this. In fact, I don't hold on two fronts. Now we've seen Rashi. I disagree with you. You didn't need to stop. And not only that, you're asking me how long should the gap be. I disagree with you about that. A gap can be as long as you like. You didn't need to stop anyway. But liditcho, according to you, the spiraloch, you are obviously of the opinion that gaps can ruin a mitzvah. Let me tell you, that is the view of Reb Shimon ben Yehoshua. Ligma Eskula, if you are subscribing to that view, then the time limit is going to be as long as it takes to complete the whole mitzvah. So there we have this machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and particularly Reb Shimon ben Yehoshua. Let's have a look, please.
Can I just ask something, Norman?
Yes.
I mean, there's two things. I thought for Krishma you have to stand still, because when we learned in Brachos, whether you can.
Oh, good, yeah, good one.
You
good
can
one.
carry it. That's one point. The second point is this idea about the gap shouldn't be longer than the whole mitzvah. I mean, that applies in davening as well. I didn't quite remember where, like if you're mafsik in
yes,
Shachris or Mariv,
Yes. So yeah, you're
I
absolutely.
can't remember what
right.
situation it is, but you're not allowed to stop for more than the gap.
Yeah, more than the time is it right? You're quite right.
I don't know what that situation is.
Now as far as Kriya Shema is concerned, the first sentence should be said standing still, absolutely. But otherwise, we do have to have lech chovaderech.
Okay.
So yes, it should be the first sentence. Actually, after the first couple of sentences, from then on, you can actually walk. So you can be, walking around there wherever you are, Mervyn, and you can still be saying your Kriya Shema. But the second point depends on how we're going to paskin, because you can see here, Rabbi Avohu was of the opinion that gap can interfere with the mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan wasn't, but Rabbi Avohu was. You with me? His only question was, how long should it be? How long can the gap be? Have a look at Tosfos, please. Lididi lo sphirili. I don't hold of all of this. Have you got the second Tosfos? Koloima. Shehu tzorech lachzor l'rosh. I'd say you don't have to go back to the beginning, even if you'd actually have a gap, the time it takes to complete the whole mitzvah. Not only that, you didn't need to stop. Like Rabbi Yochanan says in Perek Mishem Mesoid in Brachos. Full stop. Okay? Have you got that in that Tosfos? I'm now going to continue in the Tosfos. V'hoyon nireh, it would appear, says Tosfos, to kaimelon kavose. We would actually hold, the view actually is halacha-wise, but what? K'sheshah k'dei ligma kula de'ein chozer l'rosh. Do not go back to the beginning. It's fine. Why? We are paskening, says Tosfos, like Rabbi Yochanan. Yes? Af gav the pligi oleh Rav and Shmuel in Perek HaKores HaMegillah Lemafreya, the Gemara in Megillah, and Rav, it could be Rav, actually Rav or Shmuel, one of those certainly disagree with this view of Rabbi Yochanan. Because worth remembering this, in case we were ever stuck, de Kaimelon we paskin Rabbi Yochanan legabi Rav and Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan in the cards actually beats Rav and Shmuel when it comes to halacha. So that's what he's saying. Could have muchach actually proven in Perek Misha Hutziu in the Gemara in Erevin, full stop. Okay, so where are we up to?
Norman, one quick question. If in the case of Hallel, for instance, would the repetition include the repetition of the bracha at the beginning? Because that would imply that if there's a suffix about it, you wouldn't want to repeat the bracha.
No, you wouldn't. So it's very important we know how to paskin on this. You're quite right. If the halach is you've lost it, then you'd have to go back to the beginning and you have to make a bracha. If we're paskening like Rabbi Yochanan, it doesn't matter. If we're unsure how to pasken, we'd probably say go back to the beginning and don't make a bracha. So it's quite important here. Very good point. So according to Tosfos at this point, we pasken like Rabbi Yochanan, and it doesn't matter. Do not go back, even if there's a massive gap in between. Yeah.
Is Rabbi Yochanan a Tana or Namora? Was he a Tana?
A big one?
Was Rabbi Yochanan a Tana?
No, he's an Amora.
And he could argue, yet we paskin like Rav.
No. We're passing out Rabbi Yochanan against Rav. Rav is an Amora as well. Not Rebbe, not Rabbi Yehuda Anossi. This is Rav and Shmuel versus Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah? This is not Premier Division, not Tanoim here. We've dropped down a bit. Yeah, is that right? So according to Tosfos, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. But look at the next bit. Miu, but Kivan de Rabbi Avo Palig. But who's the person who's arguing with Rabbi Yochanan? It's true. Over there, it's in Megillah, it's Rav, but it's his pupil. Kivan de Rabbi Avo Palig hoyu ktsas nira lifso kamoiso dehu basro. Whoa! Now this is a tricky one now, because the normal halacha is that you paskin like a later Rav. So even nowadays, you'd go to your own personal Rav who would bear in mind all the previous views and then paskin for you. Yeah? That's the way halacha goes. So if Rabbi Avohu was saying is his pupil and is after, it's true, sometime together with Rabbi Yochanan, but he's actually after Rabbi Yochanan too, there's another rule that says you paskin like the Basro. Basro means the later rabbi.
But Norman, don't we say Rav Tana who Polig? We've had this phrase, in other
words, you do. You're quite right. Yes,
giving him the status of a
sometimes yeah, you're a good one. You're quite right. Rav Tana who Polig sometimes, but Rabbi Yochanan is also in that same league, and sometimes, as you can see from here, can still argue.
Who sets those rules?
I beg your pardon?
Who sets those rules?
Because there's Gemara and Erevin about it, as he quotes here. It talks there about all the rules about how you paskin one way or the other. And that's some of them, mainly the Tanoim actually. When it comes to later, you have to search with your search engine through all the Tosfos in Shas to come across some of this. So they have to prove some of these points. So there are general rules. Actually, at the end of brachas, if you've got Masechta brachas, there's the you've got a whole listing there of wonderful facts about Gemara. You've got a big Masechta brachas right at the end of that. You've got loads of different rules about halacha and general rules about Gemara and Mishnah and Rashis as well, about how to paskin. So we've got a problem here, because Tosfos starts off saying we're going to paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. Then he says it would appear that we really should paskin like Rabbi Avo. However, there are lots, the Rosh and others disagree with this Tosfos, because this is worth remembering. The ruling that we paskin like a later Rov, they prove from other sources. Tosfos clearly here disagrees with that, but the Rosh and others say this only comes from the time of Abaya and Rova, which are much later. You've got Rav and Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan. They are in the first generation of Amoraim. Much later on, you've got Rava and Abaya, and Rava and Abaya, Abaya and Rava. Abaya and Rava, it's only from that time onwards that we use this principle of paskening like a later rabbi. Prior to that, it's the other way around. The earlier rabbi will have seniority, and therefore you'd expect to pasken like him. If they're all of the same rank, then we'll have to try some other rules and looking through Shas, as Tosfos has done here. So the bottom line is this. There's a bit of a problem here. How are we going to paskin? Do we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan? Do we paskin like Rabbi Avo because he argues with him and is later than him? Or do you say, no, that's irrelevant because the fact that he's later than him, that ruling only applies in a much later time period when you've got Rava and Abaya. So, after saying all that, we're talking here about a gap. Well, we've seen that already in the Shulchan Aruch, haven't we? What have we seen? If I can ask you, Peter, again to show us chapter 588. Have you got that? We'll perhaps close with this. Are you okay with a 588? Oh, nice color. Are we okay then?
Can you see it?
No, I can't. Maybe others can. I can't. I've got lovely colors.
Oh yeah, nice colours.
Let me just try again.
Well, otherwise I will just read my Shulchan Aruch, which is in front of me.
1 second, please.
Thank you very much. Ah, there we go. 588. Well done. Drop down to paragraph 2. There we are. Shoma tesha tekiyos betesha shois bayoim yotza. So there we are. In this instance, we are paskening like Rabbi Yochanan, not like the point. So it's the first part. We're ignoring the statement that Rabbi Avo was his pupil and therefore later than him, and therefore we should pasken like a later rabbi. That ruling only comes in much later in time, if you see what I mean. So Rabbi Yochanan against Rav and Shmuel, we were paskin like Rav, and therefore that's the ruling. I will tell you what it says here in the. Now, I think if you press that, you're not going to get the Mishnah Berurah, are you? Give a double press on it and see if you get the Mishnah Berurah. Have a look commentary. Have we got commentary? See if you've got Mishnah Berurah. Drop down. Be nice if you have. No Mishnah. Yes, goody good. Well done there. Have a look. We're going for Tesha Tekiyos. Have a look. The Yotzor, that's the one we want. Yotzor b'di'eved. Im kivei lotzes. As long as he has kavona. Afilu yisir daito. Even if there's he forgot about it. V'hifsik b'diba, he spoke. Because of Amog, this is the point I think Mervyn was making. Because of Amog and Avraham, the kol zeh b'sheshoha b'neim shelo machmas oinus. He himself decided to have a break. If this is something beyond his control, in other words, suddenly, as part of Hatzalah or whatever, he's called out. Again, it's an onus, unexpected, not that, I decided to stop, but he wanted to listen and suddenly he's pulled out of it. Im shor then afilo rakadei ligma es kol haseder yachzer l'rosh osa haseder. He should go back to that set that is blowing. The fi psak haramo in Siman Samachay. That's what we're talking about. Hilchos Tefillah. Also talking about Hilchos Kriya Shema. And that's your point, Laurie. Well, have a look there in the Bialocha. It seems to me it's a huge problem about whether or not you need a bracha as well. Clearly, as we can see in our Tosfos, there are other views. So yeah, it seems to me there is an actual machlokas about that point. So what can I tell you? Let's just have a quick look here. Here it comes out. That is a problem. So you would normally say, I suppose, Sofi Brochus Lahokel. So back to faces here. So out of all of this, with ever paskening like Rabbi Yochanan B'diavad, notice it's all in the past. If he did this, that's not the ideal way to perform the mitzvah with no gaps. But what we are saying is, if there is going to be a gap and it's ba'onus, something unforeseen, stopping him to hearing the shofar or davening, then we do have to worry about a gap which is longer than the time it takes to complete. So it is worthwhile remembering that when it comes to Hallel or anything else, if there's having a gap in between, watch out. If it's ba'onus, suddenly you're called away, suddenly there's unexpectedly, then that rule would come in of a gap, which the time it takes to complete the whole mitzvah. But otherwise, you could, if you actually knew at the outset, I'm going to hear Tekiah now, Trua later on, then that would work. And very worth remembering, as I say, that Rabbi Yochanan on that statement. So with that, we'll stop for today. Couple of points. Can we please, Peter, go to Tanakh? I can't see why we shouldn't say a chapter of Tehillim, all of us together. If we turn to 121 of Psalms. Well done. Ooh, very colourful. I think it's 121, isn't it? That the one I want?
Yeah, that's
This way now. Oh, can we go into Hebrew as well? Second one, middle, I think, or go for the middle. Go to press on top again. The Aleph and A. That's it. So let's say together. I think we should say.
Should we sing it?
You can sing it if you like, or we could. Well, I could say it and then you could repeat. What do you prefer?
I'm happy to sing it for you.
Okay, we'll all sing it together.
Shir Ma'alo.
Malas.
Eso enei Elohim, Me'im Yoto Ezri, Ezri Me'im Adonai, V'teshu Ma'im Yoto, Ha'yitain V'mot Raglecho, Ha'yanu Shomerecho, Inei Elohim V'lo Yom Hashemesh
Yekom.
Yoreach Adonai Yishmerecho Mikol Yishmo Eskapecho Adonai Yishmo Zeiskecho Me'ato Biad Shalom.
Yes, in particular, thank you very much indeed. And just to conclude, can you go back to texts? And then we'll finish texts. And go back, drop down and go to Siddur. There is one on Siddur. Liturgy, is it? Yeah, let's go for liturgy. I think you've gone too far. There we go. Liturgy. Let's go. Siddur Ashkenaz. Let's go for weekday, Shacharis. Let's go, come down to the Torah reading. Go for reading from the Sefer. We may have to go for raising the Torah. Just give a double click there. Or you're not getting it. Yes, good. So we've got a drop down. Scroll down. Zos HaTorah. There we are. Eitz Chaim Hi. And then keep going. Remember Yehirot Son, particularly tomorrow being a Thursday. Keep going. This is after the Sefer Torah is put back. Although some people don't say this on. There you go. Oh, there we are. I think we should just say all together Achenu. Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael. Hanasunim B'Shivya. Oim Dibein B'Yom Abein B'Yabosha. Amot Yerachim Aleim. Yitzchak Mitzor Lilvocha. U'Me'afira La'Oira. U'Mishur L'Gula. Wherever one goes here, when you hear people front line and you know they come back safely and speedily. So with that, not much I can say, not much I can add. Baruch Hashem, we weren't disturbed by any sirens, which was a good sign. And although at the moment I can't hear any rum, normally we can hear the booms, not that far away from wherever you are in the country, actually. It's such a small country. But from here you can hear the booms. And it's obviously frightening. Imagine what the kids are going through. But let's hope that we have an ending soon to all of this. It's Hashem. So as I say, keep the tefillas going, the tilim, the mitzvahs. As I say, particularly Shabbos, they're trying to make a very big focus on that. Those people out there, they have no problems about any Shabbos because they are not only Kiddush Hashem, it's sakonos nefashos for the whole for everybody. So they have no problem for them. But we should try and, instead of them, try and, if we can, improve in some way or another of our Shabbos. Let's just conclude on a happier note. I think we are still talking about all being well the Siyum.